Today we're going to talk a bit about what religion is and how we're going to go about studying it in this course. If we're going to spend a semester talking about religion, we should probably have a clear idea of what that word actually means. There is no single authoritative definition of religion. Religion is something that changes and that each individual scholar has to define for him or herself. Religious scholars have been debating what a religion is for centuries. The discipline of religious studies has been around for only a few hundred years, and the definition of this word is something that religious scholars have been deciding and debating about for a long time. So it's important to know that there's no one definitive definition of that word. Definitions can either be too broad or too narrow. Sometimes definitions can be so broad that they include institutions or organizations that most people wouldn't normally consider to be a religion. Or they can also be too narrow, and they can exclude many of the world religious traditions. So we want to be careful about making our definition either too broad or too narrow. Usually what happens is that scholars start with their own religious tradition or the predominant religious tradition of their society, and they base their definition off of that particular tradition. But sometimes this can be difficult because traditions vary greatly, and something that might seem like a religion to one society might not seem like it to another one. For example, does a religion need to have a belief in a divine being? Do you have to believe in some type of god or gods or goddesses for your belief system to be called a religion? Buddhism, for example, doesn't believe in any sort of god, but most people would consider it a religious tradition. Also, does it have to include ethics? Does a religious tradition have to have some type of rule or guideline about how we behave towards each other in this world? So these are some things to keep in mind as we think about what a religion is. Now we're going to look at a few definitions of religion so we can get an idea of the types of definitions that are out there. The first one says, a religion is a set of stories, symbols, beliefs, and practices, often with a supernatural quality, that give meaning to the practitioner's experiences of life through reference to an ultimate power or reality. Now let's look at the second one. A religion is a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of the universe, especially when considered as the creation of a superhuman agency or agencies, usually involving devotional and ritual observances, and often containing a moral code governing the conduct of human affairs. These first two definitions are pretty typical of religious studies. They cover a broad range of issues, and they're neither too broad or too narrow that they would include or exclude certain traditions that most people would consider a religion. So these are pretty typical of the definitions that we'll be using in this course. The third one, however, a strong belief in a supernatural power or powers that control human destiny, is a bit too narrow, as not everyone might believe that the supernatural power actually controls human destiny. So this would be an example of one that's a bit too narrow. The next one, the complex workings of a human brain that is not responding directly to observable reality, is what we call a reductionistic definition of religion. It's reductionistic because it reduces religion to something else. You may have heard other examples of this, such as, oh, religion is just politics, or religion is just greed. It's saying that religion is actually, at its core, something else. That's not the type of definition that we're going to use in this course. We're going to respect the phenomenon of religion itself as existing in the world. The next one, religion is virtue, as founded upon reverence of God and expectations of future rewards and punishments. And also the last one, religion is to know God and to render Him a reasonable service. These two are also too narrow for this course. They definitely come from a Judeo-Christian perspective because they're using a capital G God. When there are other religious traditions that might not use this term, might not believe in a God, or might believe in several gods. So the first two definitions of religion here are going to be basically what we'll be working with in this course. Now, how to study religion. How are we going to go about studying religion from a secular academic viewpoint in this class? First, it's important to remember that religion is different from other disciplines because people have strongly held beliefs about it. Studying religion is going to be different from, say, psychology or literature or history, because people don't tend to have very passionate beliefs or views about those topics, but they do about religion, whether they come from a religious or non-religious background. So that means that we need to treat this subject matter a bit differently, and it requires an approach that we're going to call structured empathy. Empathy here means that we're trying to be empathetic to the believer. We're trying to understand what the believer believes, to get inside the mind of the individual believer. But we're going to do it in a structured way. We're going to be looking at different aspects of various religious traditions, but we're going to be looking at the same aspects in all of those traditions so that we have a point of comparison. We're going to try to understand what others believe without judging the validity of those beliefs. So this course is not about deciding what's good or bad, right or wrong. We're not trying to find a true religion. We're simply trying to understand others' beliefs so that we can get a better understanding of their worldview, their belief system, and the decisions they make based on their religious beliefs. This course also needs to be a safe space, and since this is an online course, that safe space needs to occur in the online discussion forums. Since we're talking about a subject matter that people have very strong opinions about, I expect you all to be respectful and sensitive to that when we're discussing these very hot topics. Also, studying religion inevitably causes us to ponder our own beliefs. This isn't the primary purpose of this course, but just to know that this is very common when taking a religious studies course. We're going to be looking at some of the most profound and fundamental questions about human existence and how different traditions have answered them. What does it mean to be human? What is the meaning of life? What happens after we die? How should we treat other people while we're here? So studying some of the longest lasting answers to these questions is inevitably going to cause us to question what are our own answers to these questions. So just to know that that's something that usually does come up at some point, but it's not the primary purpose of the course. And lastly, just to look at what the modern study of religion is, which is what we'll be doing in this course. It treats worldviews historically and systematically and attempts to enter into the viewpoint of the believers. So we'll be looking at the history and complexities of these worldviews, of these religious traditions. It's polymethodic, meaning that it uses many different disciplines to understand religion. Religion is a very complex phenomenon in the world. It isn't just one thing. It's sociology, it's psychology, it's literature, it's many different things. So we need to use many different disciplines to understand it. We can use history, we can use literary study, we can use art history, we can use psychology to look at this phenomenon of religion from many different angles. And it also aims to show the power of religious ideas and practices and their interactions with other aspects of human existence. So this course is not asking you to believe anything specifically about the truth or non-truth of religion or a particular religious tradition, but it is asking you to respect the power and influence of religion in our world, which has helped to shape nearly every culture and cultural institution in our world today. So we are going to look at the incredible power and influence that religion has in today's world.